Yeah, Venerable dear Dhamma friends, now it's time for the Dhamma talk. May everyone consent 3 times with sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Namo tasse bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhasse. Namo tasse bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhasse. Namo tasse bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhasse. Katamacha sa bhikkhave majjhima patipada tathagatena abhisambuddha chakkukarani jnanakarani upasamaya abhinyaya sambodhaya nibbānāya samvattati siyatidam samma ditti samma saṅkappo samma vācā samma kammanto samma ājīvo samma vāyāmo samma sati samma samādhīti. Dhamma friends, now in the 3rd day in our retreat, we are getting the start, opening for the 3rd talk, and as we all know, the common topic for the talk was the Pavatum Sutta, the turning of the wheel of Dhamma, the recorded first Sutta from the Omniscient One. And so far we have taken time to understand, according to the Sutta reveals, the 2 extremes that one should avoid and to resort to the middle path, namely is correct view, correct thoughts and correct words, correct deeds and correct livelihood, correct effort, correct mindfulness and the correct concentration. So yesterday we took time to understand how much this correct view, the broader view, help promote the correct thoughts and the intentions. Then only one can make sure about what they are talking and what they are doing, verbal and physical deeds, and their correct livelihood. But as far as the meditation is concerned, when we come to a retreat like this, we are of course concerned about the correct view and the correct thoughts, but we try to not to not to entertain correct words, or rather correct word is defined as noble silence. And the deeds also, the physical one, we try to minimize to the monastic activities. So therefore, they represent as restraints, or represent as absence of wrong words and the wrong deeds and wrong livelihood. Specifically when you sit and meditate, they appear as virati. Virati means the absence of the utter absence of words, absence of any deeds and the livelihood. But anyway, it helps and it represents the mental configuration. So, though we are not actively doing something, but in order not to do, we must have that moral restraint. So therefore some commentators tend to interpret, when we are practicing meditation in sitting posture, out of this all eightfold noble path, it becomes 5-fold. All the wisdom training and the concentration training happen, and moral training appear in the passive manner. Anyway, as far as the life or of an individual is concerned, it is there, but in the sitting it appears like something passive. And with that, the connection, the wisdom and the moral training, one can go to the concentration training, and in the meditation or in the meditative world, this is the most important and this is the most sensitive area, the most immediate, because the last aspect of concentration is become very critical in one's advancement, at least at the beginning or at the conceptual level. So therefore, the right effort, right mindfulness and the right concentration become very important, and specifically once the yogi taken a sitting posture, or rather in the sitting meditation, the right view and right thoughts, that means the wisdom aspects and the morality aspects, they become rather passive, go behind the screen, and but the most performing and active part become this right effort, right mindfulness and the right concentration. So they become the core aspects of the meditation instructions. Others become common sense. So what is the meaning of right effort? Whenever the Buddha explaining the right effort, he accepts it is not a static and stable state. The effort also, the right effort also evolves as the yogi advances from the beginner to the advanced yogi. The starting part of the effort is known as initial effort, arambha dhatu, and nikkama dhatu, sustenance of the already started one, and arambha dhatu, nikkama dhatu, parakrama dhatu is fulfilling kind of energy. But until you understand with your own experience, pragmatically and practically, hardly a beginner knows what is the amount of energy they have to exert at the beginning and when the meditation is progressing, and how the role, the function of the effort at the culmination point, at the fulfilling point. They are quite different. Not only meditation, it is a common aspect in the nature. Any skillfulness for any subject, anything, whenever we are starting, it demands huge amount of energy, huge amount of effort and dedication. Therefore, whenever we are starting something, specifically in the countries like Sri Lanka, if it is a profound task, we go to an astrologer and ask for an auspicious time. So much so we give the time and ask what are the preliminary preparations one has to do. So this was the case in the meditation also, in the traditional way. Whenever someone is going to take up his subject of meditation, there is so much of preparation. That is, to have a foolproof system, not to waste the time and to prepare the mind completely fresh. So that is still true, but in the Westerners and the Western world and in the intellectual circles, it is not so much ritualistic or go to the astrologer's side, but one has to understand at the beginning it needs so much of energy. So one classic example given when I was in Burma was when someone is launching a rocket to go to the moon, specifically the Apollo 11, 12, 13 life, they were using the Saturn rocket system, And at the beginning, the launching rocket is such a big one. When it is raised and mounted, it may be about 100 to 300 feet long. It is full of the fuel tanks. One burst at the launching moment after counting after the zero, and this burst, so much it is making a bursting, the flames run up to 300 meters. So therefore no one can go near the shuttle. Everything happening in the controlling room in the automatic way. And therefore the cameraman and others has to wait far away because so much of a shock and the whole area shake like an earthquake it seems. And then within 6 minutes all the energies are burning and taken the rocket perpendicular to the earth, cutting through these thick layers of air and the gravity, taken up to 6 miles and gone to the horizontal position and taken the orbit. And up to that, very little of that the observer can observe. And when I read the papers, it says more than 86% of the fuel is burned for this launching rocket to take the rocket from the Earth to the orbit. It is traveling only 6 miles. Because of the thick air layer, the gravitational force, and it has to start with so much of burst. Exactly the same when we are living in bogged down in this sense pleasure, kama tanha, and if you are to see kama tanha as such and to cut through the jungle, you have to set it in such a way to take distance from our sensuous pleasure, from our dear and near ones, from our earnings and stable and movable properties, and to look at it from the meditative point of view, it demands so much of energy. And that we can figuratively compare it with this first part of the first out of four foundation of mindfulness, to get an understanding about the materiality, or in the sense we can say corporeality, or kayanupassana, dwelling on the understanding on the dwelling on the body, how the body works like. Because we have so much of desire, we have so much of feeling for that, hardly we can observe our body from an alien view. Because our egocentric ideas and our habitual way that we were feeding our senses, and we think it is our duty. So therefore, we are so bogged down, we are so engrossed with the sensuous pleasure, and believe this body is me, this is mine, this is myself. So therefore, to get a view from the external point of view, outsider's point of view, alien point of view, it's an achievement. It demands so much of energy. For example, once you sit from specifically at day-to-day circumstances, if you take a seat and try to focus the attention to object like in-breath and out-breath, a neutral object, how much difficult for one to isolate the object amidst of other all distractions. Bodily pains are throbbing and external sounds are so irritating, and the wandering thoughts, daydreaming, fantasizing is completely take full swing. And under that circumstances, isolating the primary object, this is in-breath and this is out-breath and this is my touching point, and my primary task is to be with that primary object, even though you have the correct view, even though you have the correct thought, even though you have moral backing. Once you sit to take the object face to face is a task. And after taking the object face to face and to familiarize it is very difficult, because we always feel we are dislodged. We are not in our natural balance. So therefore, keeping the view with the object appear like quite foreign, quite an alien viewpoint. So therefore, everything appear quite imbalanced, quite uncertain. But after you training effortlessly, ceaselessly, keep on practicing, the Buddha assures, proportionate to your practice, after a while you may develop certain amount of familiarity, friendship, and keep the object face to face. And even then, the thoughts, the pain and the sounds, they try to get the mean advantage and intrude into the stream of consciousness, and we feel so disheartened. Because we have a idea, a theoretical maximum that my mind must be face to face with the primary object, but it never happened like that. All the distractions happen, each and everything is discharging, discouraging and becoming negative. One day you may come to know that, okay, now I can keep the object face to face, and in order to make that relationship confirmed or anchored, the teacher says, try to observe the natural characteristics of the in-breath and out-breath immediately, closely and continuously. When that happens, the observing mind and the observed object become little by little close. When the object and the mind become closer and closer, less and less chances for the thoughts, pain and the sounds to intrude, and you get a better view. And to promote that, to facilitate that, you have to read it, you have to suck the sap of Dhamma. That means see the natural characteristic of the in-breath and out-breath. If you are to study geography or chemistry or physics, you have a reason to, because you will get that academic awards. If you are to do some task, there's a reason, you will get economic, social and political gains. But hardly we can justify how and why we are just observing this kind of a neutral object with so much of effort. So therefore mind is always arguing against, thinking it is very boring, it is no use, it has no value. Because from the time unknown since, we were extrovert. We were always learning about something outwardly. But this is the only one happening under your very nose. It is unquestionably the truth. Things as they are. But mind is in a rut, always finding something titillating, dramatic and eventful, extrovert. So whenever it comes, introvert, it always appears like foreign. It always appears like something alien. So that is why so much of energy. In order to facilitate this direct path or direct observation, the two techniques are being prescribed. One thing is, before the sitting, you must have a good session of walking meditation. It is a kind of a recharging of your battery. Then you come and sit with full-fledged physical energy, and in the sitting it turns into the mental energy, and you are not poor, your resources are resourceful. And the second thing is, when and where you come to the object face to face, or keeping the in-breath and out-breath under your very nose, you have to note it as the in-breath happens as in-breath, and as out-breath happens as out-breath. Then mind becomes less and less bewildered. Otherwise, it gets bewildered and run away. And not only that, whenever the thought, sound, or pain happens, in an intruding manner, in an overpowering manner, under such circumstances you are definitely dislodged and pushed off from the primary object. There also you have to note what is the intruder, whether it's a pain or sound or thought. So likewise, this noting is the second tactic. Whenever it happens, you will get a better, closer view with the primary object. If that happens, you will get the natural characteristics as to what are the intrinsic, individual characteristics of the in-breath versus out-breath. And even if you are doing observing the abdominal movement of rising and falling, that is also valid, another primary object. It is also, you are trying to see the contrast, what is the characteristic of rising on versus the falling. This is the way you sharpen your mind in order to get the balance and the establishment, just like the rocket. When you go to the orbit, it takes number of times to balance in the orbit level to understand the non-gravitational behavior. Because you are, during that 6 miles, your body, for the first time, going to the area where no gravity. Of course, the astronauts are trained for 30 seconds of non-gravitational exercises. That is only we can gain within the atmosphere. But when you go there, we are completely in that. So therefore, we have to keep the relationship with the controlling room and just behave to see sun rises in each hour and set in each hour. So your chemical metabolism based upon this moon and the sun is completely changed, just like in the jet lag when you are traveling. So while all these things happening, they have to learn how to control the shuttle. So likewise, when the in-breath and out-breath become vivid and become close, it takes long time for season. So that means to get rid of as much as possible distractions, and not to get distracted by distractions. Whenever they come, you just note without reaction, and then keep the object face to face. When that happens, your first effort is to see the difference between the in-breath and out-breath. If you are successful, definitely that sharpness will lead you to observe the difference between in-breath versus in-breath, out-breath versus out-breath. Sometimes, if you are getting agitated and worked up and heated up, the breath becomes cross. But instead, if it is become introvert and turn inwardly and calm it down happens, breath becomes very calm and quiet. That is what in Satipatthana Sutta the Buddha mentioned. When the breath will become low, you train yourself observing, knowing the long breath and then to the short breath. So when that happens, that is the way you try to understand the evolution of a single object if you are to observe for a long time. This is the first way of cutting through the jungle. In the world, we are used to do varietal entertainment and the dramatic events. That means we are changing the object. That is the way we ward off the manifestation of suffering. Whenever we feel, we change the posture. Whenever we feel, we change our recipe. Whenever we feel boring, we change our scenery, sounds and everything. But once you observe one thing for a long time, the boredom happens, there is why the effort is so demanded, and if you continue, you are bound to see the evolution of a single object. That means breath becomes subtle. And when that happens, the vehemently chasing behind the breath and noting will be sometimes disturbing. The very concentration just sets in. So there you have to slowly withdraw the amount of energy you are exerting in terms of noting. So you have to give the chance for the mind to settle if it is growing in the healthy direction, and just observe. When that happens, it is a very tricky, it is very technical thing, organic thing. You have to calibrate the energy you are exerting. Sometimes if you are doing withdrawing energy too much, the sleepiness sets in. If you are going to exert energy too much, the entertaining of doubts and agitated mind can happen. If you know how to calibrate the proper energy, that is what the middle part here, and that is how you go to the sustenance kind of energy. Now it is a balance. Now it is the maintenance of the equilibrium. You got it, the balance you got it. So just like tightrope walking, you have to slow down the energy, but the diligence, the vigilance, the mindfulness, be in the present moment must be there. And then you can see the cessation or becoming subtle of the primary object continue to happen. At a time, mind come and say, no more object. And then you are going to unknown, from known to the unknown. But is it the real unknown, or you don't know whether mind is out of lethargic and the situation is habitual. So therefore, without accepting as it is, you just keep the vigilance and the diligence with the same object, but that time the object is disappearing. Sometimes you may keep the attention in the same place where you felt the rubbing sensation. Sometimes that's also disappearing. But you know two more criteria. That is, your mindfulness is intact, the concentration is intact. Even though the difference between in-breath and out-breath disappears, even though the rubbing point is blurred, so you have to maintain this in-breath and out, the concentration of the mindfulness. There the energy is very subtle. You have to really regulate the energy. And then sometimes again you may feel the appearing in-breath and out-breath, and again it will disappear. Sometimes you may get a very long in-breath and out-breath, and likewise there are some abnormal behaviors in the toward the tail end of the disappearing in-breath and out-breath. There you must exert certain the appropriate amount of energy and let the thing happen. Ultimately what happens is your meditation is changing from doing to happening. Earlier you have the intention to keep the track with the breath, but breath now appearing and disappearing, so therefore your chasing behind the breath also has to be slowed down. And when there is no breath, you understand no. When there is a subtle, perceivable, unperceivable breath, you understand it. Accordingly, maintaining of energy is a very crucial. That's the point from the initial energy to the sustenance energy happens. So our character, our personality traits, our likings or disliking are not always geared to this kind of subtle calibration. So therefore you have to sacrifice your likings and disliking, your personality traits. Even you are a hectic person, you have to understand the calibration of energy. Even if you are very lethargic, lazy bones, you have to exert certain amount of energy. Likewise the calibration happens. If that is the case, you can understand how the changing happens from the doing to happening, and self-ego-centered driving to just assume the duty of just neutral observer, and cutting off from all the feelings, sensations, sounds, pains, thoughts, and you go to a certain amount of inner space and you experience the whole life as a totality. It is a whole body experience. So when that happens also, you feel strange, you never feel at home because all the reference points, all gone. Benchmarks, all gone. So that is, you have to have a certain amount of calculation of energy, not only the energy, amount of faith, amount of energy, and kind of a mindfulness. Now it is rather continuous, that also has to happen. And then the concentration goes from the sensuous pleasure, sensuous fear, to this materialistic fear, Rupa Loka, and there you find everything happening. You see the broad screen and to just maintain this situation. Just like the astronauts are training themselves to go into the gravityless situation, their feeding habit, and everything has to be changed. And then you have to take a good vantage point to shoot the second rocket to aiming at the moon. There you have to calibrate with that, your position, and the controlling room also will help, but the astronaut has to take a decision. And now onward from here to the moon, it's a long distance, but not even atoms of air to distract you. It's a total space. So there are no energy necessary unless otherwise you just give a push. That push will never be reduced by any friction. So therefore, from this silent place, inner space, understanding the remaining feelings and the perception is not a substantial thing, but they are very volatile. So you have to just endure them, disclaiming, these are not me, not mine, not myself. Whenever any feeling happens, whenever any perception happens, you have to just see it's the beginning, the middle and the end, rather than monitoring, rather than manipulating. Just see with the idea, this feeling is not me, not mine, not myself. This perception, sometimes you feel like it's a good omen, sometimes you feel like a bad omen. Just like in the dream world, half dream, everything you maintain the status is not me, not mine, not myself. Then onward, meditation is an autopiloting method. Of course, there is a certain amount of calibration you have to do, because sometimes due to boredom and monotony, and due to the uncertainty and the fearfulness and all the kind of emotions, you will be dragged away. But understanding now, not only the material, now you have to deal with the mentality also. So whatever it happens, don't arrive at a decision by a single event, let it happen recurrently. They are happening recurrently. So that is how you develop equanimity and cut through, and then only you feel like a journey inwardly, and more and more you withdraw yourself rather than getting involved, and therefore you have to learn a new art of disclaiming things. There are also, if less energy happens, the sleepiness, liveliness can happen. If you have too much of energy, the excitement and entertaining doubts can happen. So then you will be taking a curvature and your journey will be hampered. And otherwise it is infinite. It's a very straightforward path. And when you go there, less and less troubles going to happen. At the beginning, when you are calibrating yourself for this gravityless situation, different. But ultimately you learn that so much so you will understand this is my real home. When I come back to the senses and all the kind of, it is a real bewilderment. It's a real wastage of time. It is a hard thing to maintain. But this is happening, but still mind is in unrest because it has no reference points to rebuild then and there the ego, the self-centered idea. the concrete benchmarks. So therefore it's always in unrest. But this is an indication. So when you go there, ultimately once you develop the equanimity to all the formations, at last, for the last achievement, no energy at all necessary. So Paripurna Vidya means it is happening due to the momentum. It is happening due to the speed. You are just becoming a neutral observer. So at the beginning, so much of demand, but towards the end, it is something happening. So you can explain this in terms of energy, in terms of mindfulness also. At the beginning, maintenance of the sustenance and mindfulness is very difficult. Ultimately, it becomes your second nature. You try to be mindful not in sitting, not even in the walking, even in the day-to-day activities. Now ultimately you will entertain the mindless situation, or sorry, the unmindful situation. At the beginning, unmindful situation is a hell of a task. It's a hell of a discouragement, but later you will smile at, okay, now I am, at that now I am unmindful. Because you know unmindful coming to light due to mindfulness. And at the beginning, the concentration becomes your utmost criterion to measure your concentration, your achievement. But when you develop the correct effort and the mindfulness, you will understand that these times I am concentrated, this I am not. Even when the concentration is there, you will develop the art of not to get shaken by. And you will study and you will facilitate. Main thing is not to worry. Even the effort is there, good. If it's not there, never mind. If the mindfulness is there, well and good. If it's not there, it's good because I know it, I'm not mindful. And when the concentration is there, why not? It's good. But when the concentration is not there, that's a reason for you to be glad because I know it. So likewise, slowly when you go advance, you will be less and less controlled by the remote controllers. You understand how the switchboard is working. This is the way the mind, the middle part you have to study, and it's a completely new thing, and you never can share your experience with the other person because the other person has to do his or her own middle part. Assimilation of middle part is not a fixed and concrete thing. By trial and error it happens. Only trial and error. You have to make your mind. There is no other way. No shortcuts, only trial and error, and that is what we call the noble quest. So, we are most advanced practitioners, those who are taken it up in the endurance, have a lot of experience and knowledge, but very difficult to share with because the beginners are always asking techniques. They are always asking shortcuts. But I can tell you the shortcuts is little longer than the normal cut. So therefore, be patient, understand the theoretical side, put yourself, apply yourself, and your own experience is the golden rule, the thumb rule of thumb. And that is the way Buddha says, I can't take the responsibility about yourself, I can give you the theory, but you have to practice. So therefore, each and every effort, whether it's a success or failure, is worthwhile. So therefore, appreciate yourself. Whenever you try to be mindful, it's an invaluable event to understand the middle part. So I hope these things will help regulate the middle part, and you will see the inner peace and the internal equilibrium in soul. Thank you very much for listening.